This week on the MovementRVA Podcast, we talk to Serge Eygenson of Fit-Minds, and we learn why meditation might be the thing missing from your physical performance.
I need you, I so need you, stay nice for one more day.
We have formed a super tribe with Koios. What is Koios? Koios is a nootropic that enhances cognitive function. That means if you use your brain to make money, or you use your brain in general, Koios will help you use it more effectively. I use Koios, Jake uses Koios, lots of people at CrossFit RVA use Koios, and we now have a sponsorship with them where you get 25% off if you use the code RVA when you go to purchase at their website. That is RVA. So go to www.mentaltitan.com, purchase your Koios today, use our code, get 25% off. I don't like doing this that much, but if you like the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you think we're really awesome, go to iTunes, give us a review. 5 stars is the best we can get. We're honestly happy with anything that happens. So, do it now, and enjoy the show.
I need you, I so need you, stay nice for one more day. Give me the warmth from the sun and the love from the tide. I need you.
Downstairs.
Jake, do you feel nourished now after you ate 4 donuts?
I've eaten like half a donut, so it's really
Yeah,
not...
you have 4 donuts on your plate.
They're coming.
I do appreciate that you're taking a bite at a time of each of them rather than going through one and then on to the next.
Your mind is a bizarre,
I have issues with
place.
the donut monogamy. Gotta enjoy them all. The taste of many donuts.
You better put this is the beginning of the podcast, because everyone, welcome back to the MovementRVA Podcast. I am Matt Cricchio.
And I'm Jake Rowell.
And we are joined by...
You're really going with the scarcity on the welcome back.
You want me to do it again? Welcome back. Look,
Sorry.
we're joined by Serge. I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to
Say his last name. Do it.
Eygenson. Did I do it?
You are definitely like the 90th percentile if
Yes.
you try to pronounce my name.
Yes.
Can you give us the real name
What's
again?
the real one?
How do
The
you
real
actually say it?
Well, the authentic Russian version is Serge Eygenson, but
So when I'm gonna
Hot debate on this team about that.
I'm going to make a confession. So when we first started talking to you, I think it was before I was going to get on the phone with you, I was like, Matt, do you think it's Serge or Sergey?
And I said Sergey.
And I said Sergey too. And you say it's Serge.
I do.
To make it easy for dumb Americans.
Let me tell the backstory. It's embarrassing, so we can start from a place of... I can't say anything more embarrassing than this, but when I moved to America in 3rd grade, I was on the bus with a bunch of 4th graders, and they were like, "Your name is Sir Gay," and it was a different world back then, and I grew up in Middle America where people sometimes are not as accepting, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I know they're making fun of me." So when the teacher was like, "So how do you pronounce your name?"
Definitely Serge.
I was like, Serge. She's like, "What? Serge?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great."
I'll take that.
And it's stuck. My middle name is Lucas, and so I was called Lucifer on the bus for like 15 years.
I want to say I started that, by the way.
You probably did because you're a terrible person. Your last name's Cricchio. No one knows how to say that when they see it.
Me and Jake have been friends for 21 years, and I've disliked him for about 17 of those years.
Interesting. So was it like a spike, then a big dip, and then a recent spike again?
Yeah, we're on a sine wave. Our friendship. For those of you that don't know, Serge is the CEO of Fit-Minds and
Meditation coach.
Mindfulness coach, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, and we actually just did a mindfulness, do we call it a mindfulness session, meditation? Are those words interchangeable in the way you use them?
They are not. I would call that a meditation session because while we did a mindfulness exercise, the second half of our session was much more of a visualization training.
Okay.
And we'll get into it more, but that's the sort of meditation I offer combines mindfulness with the secondary element of visualization as well.
Let's talk about what Fit-Minds does.
For sure. So Fit-Minds helps folks get more done and feel better doing it. And the way we do that is through meditation. We offer meditation that's practical. We offer it without all the frills of spirituality, religion, New Age terminology, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But for us and our clients, it's about the very tangible benefits of meditation. And the way we do that is we offer guided meditations in person. We offer coaching sessions through Skype, over the phone, and then we offer some digital audio on our website. And it's all guided meditations. And we really focus on how do we make meditation accessible to folks who may have read about the benefits or heard about the benefits of meditation, but the avenues meditation traditionally is offered in doesn't appeal to them. And we aim to offer meditation with specific concrete benefits that you will see your performance improved at the gym, at the office, in your relationship with the people that matter to your life, instead of it being this nebulous practice designed to create some kind of state of higher being. We want to improve how you live your life the way you want to live your life.
We just actually finished a meditation session. Did I screw that up? Meditation.
And mindfulness.
And
There's
mindfulness.
but mostly meditation, yeah.
It's like an everything bagel.
And it was interesting. Everyone that listens to this podcast already knows I have been meditating for 2 months, and I have not missed a day in 2 months.
Mazel tov.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Pretty excited. I use Headspace.
Phenomenal.
And but what was interesting is, this is a problem I have with Headspace. Every visualization is the same visualization. You imagine a point of light in your chest that grows until it just encompasses everything. So beyond doing just the foundation, which is not that, the foundation is the focus on the breath, the mindfulness of the body.
You mean the first 10 days of the Headspace?
Yeah. When you start,
you have some experience here. You've walked through. You've done Headspace.
Yeah, I've done the initial. I think it's 30 days, and then a couple of those.
the packs.
The packs as well.
So the packs piss me off, and the packs piss me off because it's whether it's the creativity pack, the relationship pack. Those are the only two I've done. There's an anxiety pack, so on and so forth. It's the same visualization, and I sort of get it from I know that the founder is a legit was a legit Tibetan Buddhist monk, and so I get because I've read a lot about Buddhism, so I understand the underlying principle of that, like that sameness of mind being through everything. But when we did our visualization, I felt that sort of walking through concrete practice was much more practical. I'm tired. This is the second podcast of the
Practicable?
day. Practicable. No,
We're making up words.
It was way more practical than, like you described it, the nebulous imagining of a point of light overtaking my body, and then I'm just a star child.
Well, I really want to make clear straight off the bat, I think Headspace does great work. And I think they deliver a really good product that offers people access to meditation.
Yeah, I pay for it, by the way, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so when I kind of described that, I was not by any means referring to Headspace specifically. But the offerings that are out there, I agree with you, when they offer visualizations, it's not the sort of visualizations that we offer in the sense, and I'm glad you brought this up because it allows me the chance to make this distinction. Thank you. The visualizations we use are really concrete, specific opportunities to practice skills that you can then apply in your day-to-day life. Our meditations or our visualizations on communication help you practice how to communicate directly and authentically and impactfully, that you can then go and have a conversation with your boss that really works the next day. Our meditation for athletes, as you guys just experienced, right? They're designed to activate the parts of your brain that are responsible for guiding you through the process of hitting a PR on your squat, right? But you can activate those parts of your brain without ever leaving your cushion or your bench, and sitting there meditating, activating those parts of your brain, strengthening them, so when you go in for the squat, you of course, still have to be physically prepared and have the strength to lift that weight. But I can help you through our curriculum strengthen the cognitive part of that process, which is just as, if not more important.
Did you see Ronda Rousey knock that girl out? Betcha Carrera?
Is that how you say your name?
Betch? I don't know.
I don't know. Yes. Well, I saw. You could see it on Instagram because that's how long it took.
That's how long it took her to do it. What's funny is I've heard her talk and a lot of fighters talk, and they're like, whoever you win the fight before you walk into the ring, and a lot of them do that, where they do the visualization that's like super detailed, in which they know exactly what their plan's going to be and if there's a counter, what they'll do. So I found that with what we did, and I think that's a technique that's used by a lot of high level people, is like really feeling what you're doing during the visualization.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's a very common thing when we're looking at weightlifting. You are thinking you're going for a PR snatch. You do not have anything in your mind other than successfully completing it. Like, it is already done. You just have to walk up and actually do it. You just have to complete it.
Yes. The way I really like to think about it is people for whom performing at their optimal peak is critical, day in, day out, right? Whether it's an Olympic athlete or
we just talked to
a military special ops professional, or it's a Broadway performer who can't flub a note on the stage or her career is over. These folks have been using visualization as this way of practicing without actually having to be in the quote-unquote arena for decades. And for them, it's a necessity, because in the arena, they just can't mess up, right? You can't misfire when you're in an intensely military special operation. But for regular folks who could also tremendously benefit from practicing and developing the skills that'll make them more impactful in their day-to-day, nobody's offered it to them, right? The same way that the cutting edge of physical fitness often goes to elite athletes, and now we see the proliferation of those same cutting edge nutrition and mobility and lifting techniques to average folks. The same sort of proliferation of elite mental training is what we're trying to do.
So I'm always interested in the backstory. Like, how'd you get started? Like,
for sure.
If I wanted to see a superhero movie, I want to see Batman Begins or the first Spider-Man. I want to know how you got started, and how that ultimately led to you creating a business and, getting, developing a meditation practice along the way.
For sure. So, thank you for asking. And then feel free to interrupt along the way, obviously. But I've been meditating.
I love to interrupt.
You're so good at it.
There you go.
Classic.
Like a knife.
So I've been meditating for on and off about 8 years. And I first came to it in college. I was the prototypical type A college student. I was president of my fraternity. I was volunteering on a political campaign. I was in charge of 1 million clubs. I was trying to get good grades in school. And then I was stretched really thin. I was really stressed out. And I was also getting wasted like 3 nights a week because that was the only release valve I knew, right? I was a college fraternity boy who would go and chug beers with my brothers because that's like the only way we knew how to reduce that stress. And
what if I still do that?
I would suspect you drink much better beer than I did then. I really hope it's not the gallons of Natty Light I consumed circa 2008.
Old English.
But yeah, man, and at a certain point, I just the drinking and the stress and the not sleeping caught up with me, and I started feeling, depressed is the wrong word, but just kind of unmotivated, and I've been into self-improvement for a long time. I started doing some Googling into positive psychology and happiness and proactive techniques to do that, and when you start doing that sort of Google search, you pretty quickly wind up at meditation. And I wanted to give it a shot, and I'm somebody who's, if nothing else, open-minded. And I was living in Australia at the time, and I'd been studying abroad. I was totally out of money, but I had some free time, and I found this free 10-day meditation retreat where you didn't have to pay anything, and you could just show up, and they would teach you to meditate, provide you with food and housing. And I just signed up. I went, and
that's like jumping in the deep end.
Yes, it very much was, and it's not for everyone, but there are, some of us learn better through gradual immersion, and some of us learn through trial by fire. So I am very much of the latter category.
Pressure makes diamonds.
That's right. Steel sharpens steel.
Let's get another quip in there. What's another quote?
What's another cliche we can use about? Maybe we'll think of one later. But yeah, as I walked out of it, man, like my world was transformed. I was more patient. I communicated better with people. I had way more focus.
Could you levitate?
Sometimes, but I definitely was not stressed out about it, which was the important thing. Yeah. And, I got home and I was like, I got to keep doing this. And I didn't, because it's really hard to meditate. It's really hard to maintain a daily practice. And it wasn't for a number of years until I really got a daily practice. It was only 2 years ago that I started practicing daily. And that took a really big stimulus. A girl dumped me. I was just feeling horrible. And it took that big stimulus to come back to meditation every day. And I was somebody who really believed in it. On that, simultaneously, during the same 6 or so year period, when I discovered meditation, I also discovered CrossFit and fitness in general. And I had a much easier time making a daily habit of working out. And, I started to think about it a couple of years ago, why was that? Why was it so hard for me to integrate meditation into my daily life? And why did CrossFit come so naturally? Well, with CrossFit, sure, I was working hard, but I had a place to go to where even on days where I didn't feel like working out, as long as I got my ass in the door, I'd have great coaching. I'd have a supportive community of like-minded peers. I had a place that was specifically dedicated to it that would enable me to, in some level, substitute for the need for constant self-discipline.
Yeah, and you had a framework that facilitated your practice, your meditation.
That's a great way to sum it up. That's exactly, that facilitated my fitness.
Oh yeah, your fitness. Well, I was about to get that parallel into...
And with meditation, I went to college in Boston, and Boston is very close, I would argue, to the heart of where secular meditation really came to the U.S. Amherst, Massachusetts, this guy named John Kabat-Zinn, really a leader in the movement, is based in Amherst. So you'd think there'd be tons of opportunities, and there were all these places, but Insight meditation centers, and I don't want to name names, but I went to 3, 4, 5 of them around Boston while I was in college, and it was all either folks who were in recovery from drug or alcohol addiction, folks who just experienced very traumatic psychological or physical trauma, middle-aged folks who were kind of at this point in their life where their kids had left and they were looking for something. It was almost always primarily female. And there was just not a place for people like me to meditate. It just didn't exist. That community did not exist. And I moved to Washington, D.C., and, again, very active, vibrant meditation community. Some of the best teachers in America are based in D.C. But you go to the meetings, and again, there's not a lot of young people. And
why do you think that is? Why do you think young people specifically aren't into meditation or do not have that community established?
The other thing I'm hearing is it attracted a lot of, I don't want to use the word broken, but a lot of people that were wounded that were trying to fix their wounds rather than...
They had a specific need.
Yeah.
I want to be very careful in how I say this because, again, I think it's amazing that these people have access to meditation because it's such a powerful tool and the evidence is there that it really helps them. But it's a lot of people who, for whatever reason, are having a lot of trouble functioning in daily life, and it's a tool for them to get back to functioning. Mm-hmm. Whereas, for me, I've been blessed to have a life where I've been at a pretty high functioning level, but I wanted something to go from good to great, right? To go from 92nd percentile to 98th. And meditation was that tool for me, and I didn't see that offered anywhere.
Well, and I also think that being in a position where you can be high functioning all the time is its own issue and its own challenge, where you have to be sort of this high level all the time and put a lot of pressure on yourself. And, it's you can do all these things, but it's you have to do more and more and always be sort of on. And I imagine that there's a meditation comes into play there.
The perfect transition to the final stage of this long-winded story. I apologize. But I was in D.C. I was working as a lobbyist in politics. I was surrounded by a lot of these high-functioning Type A folks you're talking about who felt like they always had to be on. And I felt like I had a secret weapon, man, because, like, yeah, my job was intense. I worked long hours. There was a lot of pressure. But meditation was this place where I could go and recharge my batteries. And I was like, my peers, exactly the folks you described, desperately need this, but nobody's offering it. Yeah. And at first, me and a friend of mine just literally invited a bunch of our friends, 20 people in his living room. I led a meditation, something super basic. We had a couple cases of beer. We broke out afterwards, and everybody hung out and drank beers and talked about their experience. And very low-key, low pressure, no Buddhist terminology. This was...
How'd you convince a bunch of Type A people to do that? Because most Type A's, I would put myself in that category, like, I don't need to do that. I'll just suck it up and figure it out.
Yeah, but you know what it was, more than anything? This friend of mine and I in general was just blessed to know a lot of awesome people who cared enough about me that when I told them about my crazy idea, they're like, screw it, I'll try it one time.
That's good. Cool.
But then the magic of it, and this is a great point, they tried it, they experienced it, and some percentage of them, definitely not all, but some percentage of them, when we did it the next week, they came back.
Right.
And now they knew what it was, and it wasn't them just doing me a favor, it was because they saw the benefit. And they kept coming back as we did these things for free. And as we kept doing them and I became more experienced, we started developing a framework and philosophy, which you referred to with exercise that CrossFit offers. We started developing that around meditation. We started integrating visualizations into it. And that eventually became, over the course of months and years, the Fit-Minds framework. And then at a certain point, I realized that I was really sick of being a lobbyist. And even though I had a great job with awesome coworkers and I got to do important work, I just realized that what was really meaningful for me and would really give me a deeper sense of fulfillment was to try and teach meditation as a job, specifically to my peer group, these folks I described, these Type A high achievers. And simultaneously, I got admitted to the Darden School of Business, which has a startup incubator on campus for the summer. So in May, I quit and started doing this full time, teaching folks meditation around Charlottesville, but also in DC, and teaching, like I said, online, in person, guided stuff. So that's, I don't know if that was a direct answer to your question, but that's kind of the backstory of how I came to it, where, it was something I really needed. I saw this tremendous change in my life. I knew my peers could use it. Nobody was offering them anything to solve that pain point. And it kind of like, there's not a lot of lobbyists, former fraternity presidents, kind of bros, for lack of a better word, who really deeply care about meditation. And I did, and it was almost like an obligation because I knew my peers, the peer group I just described, could really use this stuff. And to your point earlier, to your question about why is it that it's a bunch of folks who aren't like us, quote unquote, doing meditation? Well, I think it's because the people teaching meditation are a lot of 60-something-year-old men and women who've had kind of traumatic experiences earlier in life, and folks who are either at that point in their life, at that age, or having gone through some of those traumatic experiences, they can relate to the person teaching. That
makes sense. The always joke around, just to bring it to the gym context, is the average age of the gym population is my age always, and we've been here almost 10 years. So it's like when I was 22, everyone in the gym was in college, and then now that I'm 30. It's a lot of late 20 to early 30s would probably be the largest group at the gym. So it's sort of funny how that works out. So yeah, makes sense.
Totally. So yeah, I'm like pretty deeply passionate about offering this practice to my peer group in a way that works for them.
So how do you get this to high-level athletes? Because I was like, you need to talk to some, I would say, bubble athletes, regionals bubble athletes, games bubble athletes. And
the people, on the edge. They're the ones with the need.
Because we just talked about this with DNA Fit, and we're like, everyone's training the same, everyone can devote the same time, and the question we were really talking about with them was, is it genetics? And since the show was about genetics, it went in that direction. But I would pose the same.
Just out of curiosity, in a one-word answer, was it about genetics? Yes or no?
I think because that's what the show was about. Yes, but I mean, during this show, I'm thinking this is another thing that you could put in your toolbox. And maybe it gives you that edge.
I want to say that I thought that it was genetics because if everything else can be fairly equal at this point. They were kind of saying yes and no a lot. It was very
it was very zen, if you will.
It was more like
very punny.
It's more like your genetics tell you how to train, but they were saying it doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what you're capable of. But
Serge, how do you get this to these athletes?
So part of it is we're blessed to be in a moment where there's a wave cresting around meditation as a tool for optimized performance, whether that's for a Wall Street banker or a CrossFit Games athlete, right? Russell Wilson and the Seahawks employ full-time this guy, Michael Gervais, or Pete Carroll rather, employs him. Russell Wilson works with him, among other members of the Seahawks, and obviously their success has led a lot of professional athletes in the NFL, but also in other fields.
They also use float tanks, by the way. The Seahawks, just putting
Pete Carroll on the cutting edge of contemplation.
That's what I'm saying.
That windswept haircut isn't the only thing.
They were talking about
him.
I remember what team was it that had
Cowboys.
the screens?
Yeah, you'll like this. The Cowboys.
There was so there's in these very old one of the older versions or models of a certain kind of float tank. There is a small rectangle cut into the ceiling, and they would actually put a TV there and play like sports plays or a certain movement over
like
and
watch
over.
tape.
Yeah, you're watching tape while you're floating.
They wouldn't watch tape. They would watch someone perfectly doing something. Whatever, like if it was a quarterback, just perfect passes.
Of
perfect
himself
snaps.
or his competitors?
Himself. Just like, it was your visualization just literally being watched.
Amazing.
Like you don't even have to visualize. You just look at it.
So they would float for like 40 minutes. I don't know. So listen to podcasts. But they would float for like 40 minutes, and then they would flip on the TV, and they would watch that for a period of time, and then go back to just floating. So, this is like... I feel those CrossFit athletes that are like on the bubble, this is another tool that they can just integrate to get rid of the nervous jitters of competing, or... the way that a lot of CrossFit competitions are arranged, you can do really bad in an event, but if you come back, if you remain resilient in middle of the packet all the way through the competition, you'll advance. So the ability to bounce back from like catastrophic failure to perform again repeatedly through a long, arduous event.
I could also see a very direct application to those sports where it's very specific moments where you cannot mess up. Kind of like we're saying someone on Broadway or something can't mess up a note. Like if you're an Olympic lifter, you have 6 shots to get your lifts, and that's it. Like, you may only have one shot at that weight that's going to determine whether or not you win. Or a gymnast, a golfer. It adds up, but you're in a situation where you have to perform perfectly in order to, do your best.
And it's. I think you guys are kind of saying the same thing, and
we say different things. It's okay sometimes.
We don't like each other that much.
Folks performing in high pressure situations, where on the one hand, failure is extremely unwelcome, but on the other hand, inevitable some percentage of the time, and the need to be gritty through that failure. And I always think of baseball players, right? Man, if you
Matt loves baseball.
If you hit the ball, do you hate baseball?
He loves it.
Baseball.
Loves it.
Okay, so
not being sarcastic.
Okay,
nobody knows Jake.
Our sarcasm, my sarcasm and my real speech sounds exactly the same.
Nobody knows Jake's feelings. He's a robot. So baseball's a sport where you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, you're really good.
You're going to the Hall of Fame, right? You're a legend, and that resilience and grittiness that baseball players must have to succeed is also true in all the applications you guys just described. And absolutely, meditation, by essentially teaching you to stimulate your prefrontal cortex, which responds to sensory input by processing it logically, and instead of just having an emotional reaction, strengthening the connections between the prefrontal cortex. And there's been studies that have shown like literally increasing the size of the prefrontal cortex. Meditation, on the one hand, allows you to logically process that information and go, this one failure does not indicate that I'm a failure. All it indicates is that this particular time, I didn't get the outcome I planned on. And simultaneously, by limiting the connections between the amygdala, right, the stress response center in the brain, and the rest of your brain, helping to, prevent the feelings of overwhelm, fight, flight, or freeze, etc., among other mechanisms. But meditation really helps you develop that grittiness and that ability to perform under pressure. And the other thing is, whether you're using my service or you go with another meditation coach.
But use Serge's service, please.
But use Serge's service.
There's your tagline.
There's an amazing ability to customize this stuff, right, based on your needs, just like with any good CrossFit coach. And I know you guys have talked about this on your podcast quite a bit, right, that for elite athletes, good coaching doesn't just come down to knowing everything about every movement, right? It comes down to your ability to really work with the athlete as an individual.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do with meditation as well, to kind of give them that cognitive edge.
How is your service offered? Like, what can people, I'm sure, do they get one-on-one with you? Is there a Headspace type application where they download pre-created packs? What are you guys planning on doing? What do you do now, and what are you planning on doing in the future?
So the answer is all of the above. We offer in-person digital guided audio, we offer in-person, whether it's over the phone or one-on-one sessions face-to-face or over Skype, where we first work through kind of identifying the challenges you're looking to address. We create some visualizations and meditations specifically designed to address your challenges. And then you're guided through them in person by a human. Or we also offer digital recordings on our website where folks can stream stuff that's specifically designed to address focus or energy or creativity and develop those skill sets. And we also offer some, if you don't know what you're looking to address, we offer some materials like quizzes and stuff that can help you figure out, well, based on my results, improving my communication skills is what can really unleash my potential at the office. And then we'll shoot you a meditation specifically designed to strengthen your communication skills.
I could see even just in the short session we did here at the gym a few minutes ago, how much you could alter it to fit your own needs. We did some breathing exercises and whatnot, but then we ultimately got into very CrossFit specific sort of like mindfulness session at the end there, where we went over thinking out this movement that we wanted to get a new PR in or something like that. And I thought that was cool. I didn't really know what to expect, like what would be, no idea exactly what this session was going to look like, but it was cool that you could draw that parallel to CrossFit pretty readily.
And it's about training folks how to perform in pressure situations, whether that pressure comes from a goal you've put on yourself or a situation that that stimuli is external. So when I teach entrepreneurs, a lot of times the examples I'll give throughout a guided visualization.
That's what I was going to ask.
Is and this is obviously an example, but I teach at several startup hubs and incubators, and there we'll go through exercises where the examples and the language has to do with presenting to investors or working through a problem with your co-founders or learning how to creatively solve a challenge or learning to deal with frustration when the inevitable situation occurs where what you expect to happen just doesn't happen, right? I'm sure you guys run a business and like some developer in Eastern Europe promises you something on Monday, and then you promise it to your client on Wednesday, and it's Friday, and the developer, and I can say this because I'm Russian, is still drunk from the weekend before. And how do you deal with that situation? And we can always, I'm the kind of meditation Fit-Minds in particular offer very concrete, specific tools to help deal with those situations in the most possible effective way.
Slightly off topic, the first location for the gym was in a seedy part of town, a little shady kind of warehouse district, and our neighbors were it was a Eastern European group of guys who were running a chop shop, and they would just sit around and get drunk.
My
on
uncle
vodka.
prefers to call it a mechanic facility.
Yeah, it was. So now that you're here, let me say something offensive about just drinking vodka all the time, which they did. There was a stereotype, and I enjoyed it.
Did you get to enjoy any of the stereotype with them?
No, I was a terrified young man. I think maybe now I could go next door and have a drink with them, but I feel like I had a good question, but I just couldn't stop thinking about the guys next door.
Well, the thing I was going to ask that you kind of touched on is if you had someone that was creative type, artistic, whatever, and they came to you and said, I want to use Fit-Minds visualization process to help that, how would you change the language to help them?
Great question. And one that I have actually thought quite a bit about because, frankly, I'm generally someone who tends to be left-brained, and so do many of the folks I consider in my quote-unquote peer group. But when I work with folks who are really looking to, for example, work through a writer's block or the whatever corollary there is for a visual artist, for example, the meditations will have a lot more to do with just becoming aware of their environment and present to everything that's occurring and really noticing the details of the present moment, whether that means using their body, for example, to become very present to the sensations throughout their body or the sound surrounding them. Because, as you guys know, creativity, at least in my research and study of it, is more than anything the recognition of new ways to connect existing phenomenon, right? It's putting stuff that other people have created before you together in new and innovative ways. And you can do that by becoming very present to your surroundings and by becoming aware of those surroundings, using them to stimulate new connections. So doing meditations that are more centered on really, on the one hand, creating focus, but on the other, opening awareness is the answer to how I would help somebody who's a professional creative stimulate that creativity even more on a very general level. But in my experience, usually when folks come to me with those sorts of issues, it often has to do with not so much problems in their creative process. After all, they're very experienced with the creative process. Right. It has often to do with the stimuli of the rest of their life impeding on the creative process. Like, I'm feeling really stressed, so I can't do my art. And then there's addressing that underlying stress is a different strategy.
It's never about what it's about.
I like how you always try to pretend like you're not a professional creative.
I'm just asking questions, Jake.
Matt is a writer.
You are.
I am.
He doesn't like it when I bring that up.
Because I separate parts of my life into different boxes.
Well, there's a direct experience here.
There is.
That you can relate to.
I mean, okay, so to answer it, I think that's a great answer. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And
would you mind sharing your experience? Sorry to interrupt, I'm just curious.
In terms of using meditation to create?
No, just
when I say you're a writer, what does that mean?
On the spot.
just frying it right now.
I have a book in submission to publishers through an agent in New York. It's fiction. I write fiction. I'm actually in VCU's MFA for fiction program right now. Starting my second year pretty soon. So
congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's what I do. So I write. The bulk of my day is actually writing. So, except for today.
So when you face challenges in that process of writing, of putting words down on a page, is it an issue of like there's too much other shit going on in your life and you just don't have time to write? Is it like you sit there and you have all the time in the world and you just like it doesn't come to you? What are some of the
It's
problems?
the first, always. It's other things getting in the way because I didn't know I did this, but I daydream a lot, and the daydream has almost become like when I started meditating, it was funny how much I was like, this is like daydreaming, particularly like guided visualization meditations, because I wouldn't daydream about random things. I would start with an image that would begin something I wanted to write, and I would just keep going down that line, see it happen, see it almost unfold effortlessly, and I was just watching it happen. So I don't have a problem with the creative part's super easy for me. What's difficult is like when I have so much other shit to do and people are competing for my time.
So it doesn't allow your mind to sort of wander to those good places.
Right. Because I got to do... So you were saying that you were, left-brained? Which is like super analytical, right? Am I getting this right?
For the sake of this paradigm, sure.
Yeah. So I am the opposite, where like I hate rules, I hate structure, which I don't know how I did well in the military, but I did.
I was going to say.
I had a job that actually focused on not structure and being innovative, but whatever. I find that when I have to do like super technical things, like Jake does every technical thing with this podcast because I hate it, and like that'll kill my creativity.
You hate the rules I provide you. You listen to none of them.
I hate like rote things. Like when I problem solve, I don't problem solve like first I'll do step 1, step 2, step 3. Like I just try to get around a problem. It's more intuitive than like.
Not to interrupt you, but I bet there's certain times where you have to go through that methodical, systems-driven process of step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear you're practicing meditation, because the underlying principle of the practice is being okay with shit that's unpleasant. Right? It's like, for example, in Zen meditation, and this is something I'll encourage, something I took from Zen meditation, I have interpreted to work with my clients, is I'll ask them to assume a comfortable posture, but I'll also ask them to move as little as possible during the meditation, even if it gets uncomfortable, within reason, of course, right? If you're experiencing severe pain, do what you got to do. But within reason, be with that discomfort, because we're so trained by our society that if something doesn't feel comfortable, whether that's a posture you're sitting in or that's a task you're doing, shift away. Go run from the pain, right?
Yeah.
Or like take a pill and get rid of it. But like a lot of times the most effective thing we can do for ourselves is go through this uncomfortable process, because it'll create growth, right? A lot of times going through a systems-driven approach to finding a solution for you might help you develop new skill sets, or it'll help you come to solutions. But in order to do that, you have to be with the unpleasantness of doing that work, which doesn't come natural to you. And meditation, by training you to be with whatever is, right? Whatever body sensations you're experiencing while you're meditating, whatever thoughts you're having, and just sitting through it. And in the case of, if you're one of my clients, not like physically not moving and also mentally staying focused, will train you to be with whatever is, and then will enable you to effectively take on tasks, whether it's something that comes to you naturally, for example, for you, something that's creative, right, and allows a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, or something that's very systematic and may feel less comfortable.
Yeah. You talked about training. Have you done any work with special operations?
I've worked with folks who've just come to me as individual clients, who had experience in military special ops and were now in roles largely in Washington, D.C., working for the Defense Department, but I've never formally worked with the military. My
first exposure to, and I didn't know it was meditation back then, was through working with that community, and it was a visualization based on stress relief, and it was basically, imagine a point of light, it was almost Headspace. Imagine a point of light in your body that grows, and then you just start to melt. And so the idea was like, to relieve yourself of the whatever you were holding on to. So I didn't know if you had actually had any experience with that. That was something that we just did all the time. We had some guy
in the military. You had formal.
Yeah, a guy came in and led that, and like trained the people that were my boss, and then our bosses came in and showed us how to do that, and recommended frequency and when you did that.
But that's a pretty unique experience though in the military to receive that specific training.
I was in a different place than the most of the military. So
it's extraordinarily exciting to hear that these folks who are, doing the most honorable work imaginable, but also like the most stressful work imaginable, are getting access to those kind of tools.
That is something I didn't know it was meditation. That's actually something I still use. If I can't sleep at night, I'll lay there and I'll do that, and it still just works right away.
Yeah.
So what is, I guess this is what your services and products really are getting down to, but like if someone says they want to start tomorrow, like what's the first thing they should start? Like what do they do?
www.fit-minds.com. No, I jest. But great question. Like meditation is extraordinarily simple to understand the mechanics of. Mm-hmm. And if you just want to start tomorrow, put a 5-minute timer on your iPhone and just follow your breath. And what I mean by that is just notice the physical sensations of your inhale and exhale, the way they resonate in any part of the body, whether it's your nostrils or your chest or somewhere else that really feels natural for you. and just like go sit on a chair at home and do it for 5 minutes. And that's a wonderful place to start, to just experience what it is, and then start doing your research. You can go check out Headspace or any of the other great apps.
You can plug yourself, it's okay.
Or Fit-Minds.
Plug away.
Fit-Minds or any of the others that offer, introductory meditation trainings. We have a free 10-day mind cleanse is what we call it. But what it is a free 10-day training for folks who haven't meditated before. They can also go find a meditation teacher online by going and visiting Fit-Minds, or they can find another one. There's so many great teachers offering free content. But the one thing I would really encourage, and this is true of the gym, this is true of meditation, this is true, I think, of life in general, is if you want to get good at something, just go and do it. It's kind of part of my life philosophy. Do it, of course, whether it's meditation or working out or whatever. Do it in a way that's safe and smart and doesn't put your body at risk. But you can watch all the YouTube videos in the world, but unless you're going out there and doing it, you can't see the benefits of meditation by reading about the benefits of meditation.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we talked to just a couple podcasts ago, an entrepreneur and running coach, Patton Gleason, a local guy, someone we've known for a while, a very interesting guy. So we discussed sort of his habits as like being a successful entrepreneur, or being, and it wasn't even that, just being like a good, well-rounded person. And basically what you just said was, I don't even know if he called it meditation. Maybe he did, but it was very simple. It was something like when he wakes up in the morning, he just sits down and like pays attention to his breathing for 10 minutes or something like that. And so, again, like as we're saying, it's there's this swell of interest, I think, in meditation and how it's applying to people like him who are just very active entrepreneurs and creatives and looking for a way to, like, with all this pressure and stress, to like be the best people they can be, and to like not let all that sort of take over their lives. Mm-hmm. So
that deeply resonates. And I want to just kind of highlight that meditation is getting all the press, and for good reason, but I think if you broaden the scope and you just say contemplative practices more broadly, I think there's tremendous benefit for folks like you, like this running coach out there doing stuff, active, busy lives, that will enable them to reflect and then just be more effective, efficient, and less stressed in all of the other activities that they do. And by that I mean contemplative practices can be journaling. Just look at the long, rich history of every effective world leader, essentially, has journaled. It can be just spending time in nature. There was a study that they published, I want to say last week, about how folks' levels of the brain chemicals related to stress literally decreased after only a few minutes of spending time in nature. So contemplative practices could just be spending time outdoors. It could be spending time in conversation and interactions that are driven by a desire for authentic communication rather than some goal or some quid pro quo kind of interaction. Contemplative practices come in many forms. Meditation is a really effective one and a really time efficient way to do it. But I deeply agree with what you said, and I think there's a broad range of ways you can kind of bring that reflective quality to your life that then allows you to do all the proactive things you do more efficiently and effectively.
Thinking about, we're in a gym, and people can probably hear weights getting dropped right now.
On every podcast,
so they're used to it. So we sort of danced around it a little bit, and I feel like, especially for, the folks in the gym, they're going to want to know, like, how does this actually help me? Like, what is the leap from sitting there and, paying attention to my breathing to the next time I come into the gym and I'm going for a snatch PR, that I am in a better place to do so? Like, how do we get to that place? What's that jump right there? Like, what does the practice look like, and how is it helping us achieve what we're looking for?
Sure. Well, I will say to your listeners, the folks who come into your gym, theory's great and the research is great, but try it for yourself. And when you're focused and you're in that flow state where you're relaxed, there's no tension, but you're really present to the actions you're taking, whether they're physical or mental, you just get better results. And that flow state is largely at least in the research that's been done recently using brain scan technology, is created by walking the edge between alpha waves and theta waves in our brain, right? And
no idea what that means. Do you, Matt? Waves,
I've
all
seen
of
it
them.
before. I don't.
So, right, our brains have neurons that conduct electricity, and and there's different frequencies. And theta waves are the waves that are associated with, that place where you're kind of drifting off to sleep, but then you can pull yourself back. You're not quite asleep, but
That's a lower wavelength, right?
yes.
Okay.
And then there's alpha waves.
Science.
And then there's alpha waves, which is this sort of daydreaming you were talking about, Jake, earlier. And when you can kind of get to a place in the middle of those two where you're relaxed, you're creative, but you're focused, you get really great results, and meditation stimulates that. And meditation stimulates your ability to produce those waves when you meditate, but also off the cushion, just familiarizing your brain and creating neural pathways that are designed to promote those kind of wavelengths. But again, theory's great, but go try it for yourself. And then the other part of it is, I mentioned the prefrontal cortex earlier. It's this big chunk of our brain, the latest part of our brain to develop, that really makes humans humans. It's responsible for logical thought, for selective information processing, for our ability to empathize and sympathize with others, our ability to communicate in interactions, and our executive functioning, right? Our ability to make decisions. And by stimulating that part of the brain, by actually through neuroplasticity, right, the process of our brain evolving based on the actions we take well into adulthood, creating a larger and stronger PFC, we enable our ability to, for example, have the self-discipline to actually come into the gym every day and do the things we're going to set out to do, which then, when you try the snatch PR, you've put in the work, and it's easier to put in the work. And also, finally, the last thing I'll say is, so much in my experience as a CrossFitter of the moments where I see my best results is when I have that really great present moment awareness of knowing exactly what my body is doing. And so when my coach says to, in my snatch, for example, keep my chest more upright, I can, because I have better body awareness, make that adjustment more easily. I can then get better results. So that presence breeds body awareness, which breeds better body mechanics, which breeds better results as well.
I mean, I could also see it, deeply affecting your attitude, in terms of, you go up to that snatch and maybe, you're, in a bad state of mind where you're thinking, well, God, I really hope I get this, but I've been training for 3 months for this PR and I haven't, if I don't get it, it's going to be terrible. And you have all these sort of thoughts swirling around in your head and expectations, and you're very attached to what the outcome's going to be and how it's going to affect you. And I could see just being more present and routinely sort of practicing meditation and not being, I don't remember you talking about just sort of being aware of say the pain or discomfort or things like that. So not being so attached to what's going to happen. I could see it being helping you focus on more what is immediately at hand rather than being so attached to the outcome of what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
I know that was probably too wordy, but yeah.
No, that's so landed and resonated with me and what I teach. And the way I often talk about it clients in a sports context is, that awful sports cliche that you hear athletes, professionals at press conferences say, oh, it's just another game, and we're taking it one game at a time.
Yeah.
Well, if you break that down to its root level, I think the reason they're looking at it like that with that process-oriented approach is because it then enables them, by treating every moment of every game as just another moment and just being present and not looking at it based on results, but just looking at every moment individually, those big moments that theoretically are filled with pressure, you learn to treat them as just moments, regardless of whatever context they exist in. So you're learning to quote unquote perform under pressure, but what you're really learning to do is to treat the stimuli that are coming at you, right, as not as pressure, but just as context, right? And one moment your context is that this is just another snatch, and then the next moment is that this is a snatch during competition, but you don't allow that to create a ton of pressure. There's this guy, George Mumford, who
of Mumford & Sons.
I was gonna go for that joke, but I was like, it's too terrible.
I'll do it.
I'm glad you're taking the low,
Lots of people are
the
gonna laugh at
lowbrow
that.
humor for us.
I would highly encourage people to Google both Mumford & Sons and George Mumford, and when you see them, you'll obviously notice that one is not like the other. But George Mumford's this guy who famously taught meditation techniques to first Michael Jordan's Bulls, and then Kobe Bryant's Lakers, and now the Knicks.
Oh, I've heard of this guy.
He's very close with Phil Jackson. They're about the same age, I think. The legendary NBA coach, Phil Jackson. And
Who is a Buddhist?
who is a Zen practitioner, which I'm not sure, is he a Buddhist?
I thought he called himself a Buddhist, but he might do Zazen. I don't know.
Could well be the case. He's certainly known as the Zen master in NBA circles.
Right.
But yeah, this guy, George Mumford, when he taught Michael and the other Bulls players in his book, The Mindful Athlete, talks about this very idea of when you learn to just be in the moment and be with your body experiences and your breath and just aware of your surroundings, there is no pressure. It doesn't matter that there's 15,000 fans booing you as you take some high pressure free throw. When you're just in the moment, you can let go of that context. And I think going back to our earlier point, which you mentioned, that need for grittiness, right? To when you fall flat on your face, to just get back up and keep going. I think again, by not being so focused on past experiences or what the future is going to look like, and by just really being with the moment, you can learn to activate that grittiness and that ability to.
Another way of saying that is just focus on the process.
Yeah.
I'm full of cliches today, and I'm fine with that.
Nick Saban is going to sue you guys for using his copyright.
That's fine.
I wish I'd read more of it. Actually, I didn't even think about it until right now. I saw that, I want to say it was it David's daughter? Or what's the other one? The other Icelandic
Sigmund's
girl.
daughter.
One of the two. Badass CrossFit Games.
Thor's daughter?
Podium.
Who won?
David's daughter, right?
David's daughter,
Yeah,
okay.
David's daughter. That sounds bad that we don't know. Anyways, looking through, I think, I don't know who it was. One of the two. They're blonde and Icelandic.
And just beautiful and buxom.
All these things. Looking through her Instagram, because I wanted to know more. And look at the pictures.
I'm sure that's why you looked through Instagram.
I was very curious about her personality.
I just want to understand how your mind as an athlete functions.
Yeah, and I saw that she was reading this book, The Champion's Mind. And
Unfamiliar with that one. Who's it by?
Jim Aframo.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I started reading it. Not very far yet. I wish I had thought about this very direct correlation to the show today, and I would have read more so I could talk about it. But it seems pretty good so far. It is touching on a lot of things we're discussing right now. The mindfulness and the presence in sort of the task at hand. It's a decent book. It's less self-helpy than I thought it would be, and I'm going to finish it and hopefully have some lessons to pass on, or at least recommend the book to people who can put it to good use and have better genetics than I do.
We have great genetics. We found out today.
We are basically Olympic athletes who just squandered our potential.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to hearing this genetics podcast. But, the one thing that really struck me about what you just said is this idea that it's not self-helpy. And
I was about to get on him about this.
Well, it really resonates with me because as somebody
What's there to get on me about?
Everything that could smack of self-help, you are just repulsed by.
You are too. You say these things.
But I think I'm more open to be like, is this actually self-help or is it not?
We have directly talked about this.
Can you guys define what you mean by self-helpy?
It's too nebulous. I can't touch it.
I got kind of a definition. If it's clear that this is a money-making scheme with some sort of wishy-washy process, then it's self-helpy.
What does the money have to do with it being self-helpy?
because of the exploitative aspect of it. Not that there's any problem with making money, but if your product is just like, I used to think Tony Robbins was really self-helpy, but now apparently he helps all sorts of high-level elite, I don't know if I want to use the word elite, but like high-level entrepreneurs and other people. So I'm like Jake, I actually don't have a real definition. I just feel like I know it when I see it.
I think the same way, but I feel like that's also a good indicator that we don't really know what we're talking about on this one.
But do you think that smacking of this scent of self-help prevents it from the content from actually being good?
Here's what I said in the last podcast. Virtue, the pursuit of virtue, which is self-improvement in a lot of ways, is an ancient process. Back to the Romans.
Sure.
You could read Seneca or Tacitus and
my guys.
Yeah, get the things.
You guys talk some stoicism around here?
What we have, I think, at some point.
I love it.
But and then Zen and our Buddhism and Hinduism are older than the country that we're standing in right now. So these things have been around forever, and when they get repackaged, as something new, or and it's not even the new, it's just the like, I can't explain it.
There's just a feeling that it isn't genuine.
Like chintzy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, so it's interesting because why that really resonates with me is it goes back to the core issue I had with so much of the really great meditation content that is out there. There's like unreal instructors out there just who teach life-changing practices, and the people who would benefit most will never visit their website because of the packaging that it comes in, because it's oriented towards, often middle-aged women or folks who just are not my peer group, for example, right? And our peer group. And that really resonated because I think their content is great, but I just think their packaging is such that it's very targeted to a very specific group. And that's a lot of what Fit-Minds is trying to do, is just by virtue of how we present our product, but also the product itself. It's designed to offer that value of that mindfulness brings to the table, that meditation brings to the table, that visualization brings to the table, without packaging that reeks of incense and woo-woo,
right?
And
or you
1970s
need help.
ashrams.
Yeah, you're broken and we will fix you. That aspect of it just drives me crazy.
I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. To quote somebody somewhere, that's not me. That's not original. But 100%. What I love doing and what I think where the value really is helping good people get great, right? It's not, or that's what I'm interested in doing. And the clients I want to attract and the clients that Fit-Minds is all about is people who are already doing big things out there.
I can't help but think about when we're talking about sort of the self-helpy thing. I'm sure everyone's seen Donnie Darko at some point. No?
Jake Gyllenhaal?
No, I'm very familiar with the movie. Don't believe I've watched it all the way through since like 7th or 8th grade. So it's been a little while.
It's not so Patrick Swayze is like a self-help guy. And it's just a funny part of the movie, but they keep using the phrase like a fear and love, and everything's on this spectrum. And it's just like, of course, Donnie Darko is completely disgusted and disillusioned by this whole presentation. It's all these middle school kids that have to sit through like this like self-help seminar. That's what I picture when I think about the self-helpy thing. But I still don't know.
I picture a lot of group hugs.
Right.
Overwhelming
Trust
positivity.
falls.
Trust so many.
Let's do a trust fall.
Well, you ready to wrap it up? I feel like we've covered so much.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have one more question.
Let's hear it.
Maybe we could answer this. Since you do listen to Tim Ferriss, what's your plan to 10x your business? What's the 10x vision?
It's a great question, and I appreciate dropping the Timmy Ferriss reference.
I want someone to say that's a terrible question, but I'm going to answer it anyways, just once. Be like,
yeah, I would.
Great question, actually, just bad question, but
let me answer a totally different question.
I'll answer your fucking stupid question.
So the vision I see for 10xing the business is creating a CrossFit-esque model for classes, and where every CrossFit or most CrossFit gyms have a warm up, a strength piece, and then they have the WOD, right? Or some combination therein. I see the potential for creating something similar to allow it to expand. But to reframe a little bit what you said, frankly, what I'm really excited with this business is the part where I get to teach people meditation. It's like incredibly fulfilling. It's really fun to do. I believe in it as an idea and a concept, but also when I actually do it, it just really resonates with what I want to be doing in life. And I think at a certain point when you scale big enough, you start being a manager and an executive as opposed to the person who actually does your business's core function, right? I don't know how many CrossFit sessions Greg Glassman is coaching.
I'm down. I do one a week.
And he hasn't coached one in 23 years.
That's a lie.
But
I get it.
And so like when you asked that question, it really touched a nerve because I kind of it's an internal struggle, frankly, I'm working through. Like, do I want to have an extraordinarily monetarily profitable business that is large scale and I have a role as a manager of that business, or am I more interested in something that's smaller scale, allows me an income that allows me to be comfortable, but really allows me to do the thing I'm most passionate about every day? And where's the middle ground? So still figuring it out.
You have convinced me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Let me know when I can bill you for your next one-on-one coaching session.
Is there anything else you want to plug? Or of course, what's it, fit-minds.com?
Yeah, so www.fit-minds.com or serge@fit-minds.com. Just shoot me an email. Serge is spelled S-E-R-G-E.
Not Sergey.
Not Sergey. And
does your mother call you Sergey?
My mother calls me Seryoja. All Russian names have a pet name. And my mother would tell you that you should definitely try our 10-day mind cleanse. It's what got her started meditating every day.
Yes.
As well as we have a quiz up that'll help you identify the skill set that could most help you optimize your performance at work, and some meditations tailored to that. We've got some great FAQ videos up there. So just go visit the website or shoot me an email and let's talk. www.fit-minds.com.
Sweet. We don't plug our platform, so Jake, just sign it off.
All right, guys, until next week, it's just exercise.